Klaus, thank you for talking to me.
You're welcome.
Before I ask you a bit about the history of legislation here in Germany, can you tell us a little bit about your organisation, LSVD, Lesbian and Gay Federation of Germany?
Yeah, it's a Lesbian and Gay Federation in Germany, which makes a difference. And we consider the whole diversity of this country to be part of our organization as well. So we have Turkish people and other religion, and all the diversity is reflected within our association. We were founded in 1919, former East Germany, before the reunification of Germany, and after which we grew and became part of the western part of Germany as well. And so we celebrated last year 25 years of LSVD. Well, in 1999 we became LSVD, before we were the Gay Men's Association in Germany. And our main issues, our mission is speak about equality rights, non-discrimination issues, against homophobia, transphobia, and human rights work. And we created in 2007 our human rights foundation called Hirschfeld Eddy Foundation. And as such, we support human rights defenders abroad.
You've got about 4,000 members, haven't you?
4,500, yeah.
4,500 members, and I think 100 organisations are also members as well.
Yes.
You were set up, you mentioned, in East Germany, in Berlin. How come you moved to Cologne?
Well, we just expanded to the western part of Germany. Most of the people are living here in the Rhineland area, some 20 million people. So in the different regions of Germany, LSVD created regional offices and regional organizations. That's why we expanded to the west, so to say, the other way around. And yeah, so it's not so, it's a small association. 4,500 is not a lot of members. There should be at least, 20,000 or 50,000 members, because Germany has 80 million inhabitants. So we still consider it a small one, but we are growing. So
you're a campaign group, an activist group, but you also offer other services like phone counselling, don't you?
Yes.
And things like that.
Yeah, we do a lot of counseling for example, rainbow families. We have a project going on since 2002, supported by the Ministry of Family Affairs, and now we manage it on our own, just to lobby and educate and sensitize on the rainbow family issues, to make the rainbow family strong, and to inform, if you are interested to have a child, how to get a child. But our way of working is bring the issue, mainstream it to the major family counseling organizations.
Going back to the history, I think in 1871, homosexuality was formally criminalized in Germany, and paragraph 175 was introduced. What was that?
The paragraph 175 is a very old one, from the beginning of the empire. In 1870 it was introduced in the National Penal Code, and there were some reforms, or they tried to reform it in the 20s during the Republic of Weimar, the first democracy. There were mainly the Social Democrats. They tried to reform abolish paragraph 175, but when the Nazis came into power, they made it even worse. And this Nazi version of paragraph 175 dated from 1935, and this one was in power until 1969, which means men that were persecuted during the Nazi time and survived concentration camp, for example, after World War II, were persecuted again, mainly by the same churches.
Really?
And they were sent to prison again. Their whole life was destroyed. They lost a job. The citizenship was destroyed, so to say. The bourgeois way of life, or yeah.
So not only were men who were put into concentration camps who were homosexual or accused of being homosexual, not only after the war were they released, but they were imprisoned again.
Yes, and by the same churches, sometimes.
But Germany has quite a history of homosexuality. I think back in the 1920s there were bars and places that gay men particularly would go to.
Yes, and Magnus Hirschfeld comes from Germany, one of our great fighters for our rights all over the world. He's well known. He came from here, and Kai Ulrich as well, he was one of the fighters as well for decriminalization in Germany. And yes, there were two big reforms of paragraph 175 in 1969. It needed a change of government from the conservative to a big coalition government with the Willy Brandt government in these times, in the 70s. These major reforms took place. And finally, paragraph 175 was deleted only in 94, after the reunification of both Germanys, because otherwise former East Germany would have get it again.
I understand that in East Germany, it was 1968, and West Germany, 1969, there was decriminalization.
Yes.
Why was East Germany first?
East Germany was more progressive on this issue. East Germany considered the better part of Germany, as it's a complicated history. But of course, East Germany was more proactive in abolishing Nazi laws, for example. Whereas in West Germany, in 1957, our constitutional court ruled that this version of paragraph 175 is okay. It is constitutional. And East Germany, they named it in a different way. It was 151 in East Germany, and finally they made a big reform in 1968. And in West Germany, it needed a new government, because a conservative government that was in power during 20 years, the CDU government of Konrad Adenauer, was not willing to decriminalize, not at all. They found it is okay with morality rules, and with constitution as well.
And politicians in general in Germany are still socially conservative, aren't they, on many areas?
The CDU government, the conservative one, yes. They make differences, but there are no differences. We have a registered partnership law granting all rights except from common adoption, but in reality it's possible as well by successive adoption. So there is no difference anymore, but instead of granting marriage for all, instead of opening marriage, they still stick to the registered partnership law just to make a difference.
How do you feel about that?
Discriminated, of course. We think we don't need a registered partnership, we just should grant marriage for all, and that's it. So we could dedicate our work, for example, to human rights issues such as support our friends in African country or in Russia. We could work more on this as a small organization, but no, we still have to fight for our internal equality.
You mentioned adoption, and that's been a big issue because in general, same-sex couples can't adopt. What about trans issues? People identify as transgender. Where did they stand?
Well, we have a very old transsexuality law, which dates from 1980, and this has to be reformed. We need a modern transsexuality law, but the government is not moving forward on this. They are still sticking to old principles.
What is the law at the moment?
Well, you might, of course, change your sex, and you may as well change the name. This has been ruled, but nevertheless, the old law has to be modernized. So we need to how to put it, to be up to date, such as, for example, Argentina has a very proactive and a very good and a modern transsexuality law, or Malta, country like Malta. And still in my country, it is, I don't know what they fear about, but why they don't do the necessary reforms.
What about issues such as intersex?
Intersex, it is not a big issue in Germany, but with the okay of the parents, they don't necessarily operate a recently born child, which is born intersex. So no reparation without the consent of the parents is going on again.
What about people who don't identify as male or female?
Well, they face major problems with papers. They face problems when going to toilets, for example, in public places. They feel discriminated against. That's one of our problems we still have in Germany. Again, a new problem again, which is the new rise of homophobia and transphobia especially, because trans people are more visible than homosexuals, and they become targets of violence, for example, even in major cities such as Berlin or Cologne. Of course, where they show out and where they are present, they become victims of violence.
And laws here in Germany, particularly regarding LGBTQI people, are they decided on a federal or state level?
It depends. For example, education is regional level, which means the 16 regions are concerned, speaking about schools and projects on LGBT education in the schools, so-called action plans. In all the 16 regions, we would need action plans, and some already started to do it, and there is major opposition going on the streets. Parents' organizations, fundamentalist Christian organizations, they are speaking out against these, to our view, necessary action plans for education in school. And to address homophobia and transphobia on national level, the government, within the coalition agreement from 2013, they signed to make an action plan against homophobia and transphobia again on national level. And they started, actually today there is a big meeting going on in Berlin, and to bring all together the NGOs and LGBT organizations to discuss what should be the content of this national action plan against homophobia and transphobia. We already have an action plan against racism, anti-Semitism and related hostilities, and this one has to be widened now, opened up for homophobia and transphobia.
Are there programs in schools dealing with transphobia and homophobia?
Yes, there are programs going on in several cities in Germany. There are associations taking care about this, but mainly LGBTI organizations. But we want to mainstream the issue. We have to, if we want to be really successful.
So does your organisation work closely with politicians and other organisations such as the police?
Yes, we do. We do work together with the police officers. Here we do trainings with the police department in several cities in Germany. We sensitize. We have been doing this for 20 years. Especially here in Cologne we started. There are people in the departments, in the police departments, dealing with LGBT issues, specialists. They have their own groups within the police departments. There is a lot of work going on, but still some laws have to be improved. For example, hate crime law doesn't mention homophobia or transphobia.
It's not a hate crime.
It is considered a hate crime, but it is not mentioned in the law.
So legally, there are not penalties in place
Yes,
for
that's a
people who
problem.
commit those particular crimes?
Yes,
Really? Is that going to change, do you think?
it will have to. We are trying to convince the Minister of Justice. He is not a bad guy. He is from the Social Democratic Party, and that's a guy who announced to the rehabilitation of victims of paragraph 175 to give indemnization and rehabilitation and to make everything so that the sentences are deleted.
Places like Cologne, where we are now, and other cities like Berlin, they have a very pro-gay reputation, particularly internationally. People come here for the Pride celebrations, Christopher Street Day, and all of that. But Germany in general, is it quite conservative? Or is it quite tolerant and accepting or welcoming?
It is still quite accepting. And we show to our partners in other parts of the world, in Russia, for example. We just keep telling them, look at Germany, which was a singular place where people were persecuted because of their homosexuality or gender identity during the Nazi times or even after World War II. But change is possible. Now we have a population that is mainly, the big majority, like 70%, is in pro of marriage rights or is accepting homosexuals and transsexuals.
So if 70% of people support marriage rights, why is the government not following them?
The parliament, even in parliament there is a majority, and even the federal chamber, where the regions are represented, they voted in for marriage rights. But the Conservative Party, which is not astonishing because of history, because it was a Conservative Party who didn't reform paragraph 175, it is still, they have a problem with homophobia and transphobia, even if they keep saying we don't have. And Chancellor Merkel, Angela Merkel, she makes differences, and she wants to distinguish from her coalition partner, the SPD, Social Democratic Party. And this is one issue where she can say, I'm different from my coalition partner. And she's looking to the far right as well, so that she tries to get the voters from the far right again, because she made major reforms such as obligation in military services, nuclear power. What else? Minimum wages, for example, her government did. So, and this issue, we were quite looking forward to have marriage rights, a big major reform as well, so to say. Would have been very important, but no, she wants to make a difference.
So do you think under Angela Merkel, marriage equality will not happen?
It will not happen during this legislation. Next year there will be elections. We will see it needs a change of government and perhaps a change of chancellor.
How soon could it happen?
Well, as soon as there is a change of government next year, it would happen in 2018. But if we stick to the same government, it will not happen, probably. Perhaps no one knows. I mean.
And finally, what advice do you have for gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, any queer visitors to Germany?
Well, you should come. It's an underestimated country. I think it's a nice country. I've been traveling a lot, and I think that there are places in Germany which are very nice, especially the Rhineland area, to come and to come during the gay prides. They will have fun, like all over the world. It's very nice, and especially in Cologne, there are almost 1 million people coming and gathering for a gay pride. But at the same time, you always have to take care where you go. Be attentive, and keep in mind that there might be homophobic attacks, like all over the world. It can happen.
Klaus, thank you very much.
You're welcome.